Cadence of Hyrule! I don't think anyone expected this. The creators of Crypt of the Necrodancer, a game that I'm not sure I've heard of before the announcement of this game, working on a crossover game with The Legend of Zelda? Alright, you have my attention. So let's do our latency calibration and get started with this. 0.000000 milliseconds. Neat.
Every world has its evils.
So the game begins with the protagonist of Crypt of the Necrodancer, Cadence, giving some narration before falling into Hyrule. Nice you to drop by! After playing through a brief tutorial section, if you have it enabled, you have the option to choose to wake up either Link or Zelda. I'm more used to Link than Zelda in this game, so Link it is. Now, the first thing to note is that the game is rhythm-based. Every action you do has to be to the beat of the music. If you miss a beat, whatever you were trying to do won't work. Enemies will also move to the music. Also, try not to move into the same spot an enemy is moving to unless you have your shield out. I think this caused me a lot of deaths. Speaking of which, when you die in this game, you'll lose all your rupees, keys, and other temporary gear. Though you'll be able to go to a special shop, if you have it enabled, where you can get gear with the diamonds you collect. One thing that I can say from my experiences with this game is that it's challenging, though I think it does so fairly. You see, while you lose all your rupees and keys, the overworld resets so chests respawn, and so do enemies. So it's not hard to get back rupees, and you can either re-find keys in the overworld, or you can buy them from shops in the dungeons. Still sucks to lose hundreds of rupees though. And if you are either missing a lot of beats, or just want to move at your own pace, you can turn on fixed beat mode, which makes it so that enemies only move when you do, and also you don't have to worry about keeping up with the beat. While I stuck with standard mode, fixed beats being turned off, for most of my first two playthroughs, I feel like I'll be playing a bit more with fixed beat mode on, though I'll still play with it off as both ways are fun to play. The game is randomly generated. The overworld generates once when you first start a new file, and all dungeons are procedurally generated, so if you either die or leave the dungeon, they will change. And the bosses' names are puns. Bass Guitar Most Nights, Go Maracas. I love it! Halfway through each dungeon, you will find a chest that gives you one of 3 items to choose from. You'll be able to get them all eventually, so pick whichever one you want. The graphics in this game are great. The pixel art in this game really sits well with me. We have Breath of the Wild designs for some of the enemies, transitioning into 2D very well. Every enemy has their own mechanics and enemy variations. The animations are very fluid. And when Link is idle for long enough, he starts doing this little foot tapping animation. I don't know, there's something about it that just sits well with me. Even he likes this music. Speaking of which, now it's time for the big hitter, the music. It's amazing. The people that worked on this soundtrack did a fantastic job. They got Jules Conroy, Family Jules, someone I'm sort of familiar with because of the Runaway Coliseum, to do the guitar for the soundtrack, and he did an outstanding job. I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan of rock or metal. I'm still honestly surprised how much of those kinds of remixes were in Smash 4, but the guitar works for every song it's used in. On a side note, he also did the voice of Gato in Sugar Conroy's currently ongoing Chrono Trigger LP.
They call me Gato, I have metal joints. If you can beat me up, you'll earn 15 points.
Timely! Also, when it comes to this shopkeeper from Crypt of the Necrodancer, I think they use auto-tuning to hit some of the higher notes. The higher notes don't sound like his voice alone. Most of the tracks in this game come from either A Link to the Past or Ocarina of Time. Makes sense considering both games created some pretty iconic tracks for the Zelda series. Well, okay, all Zelda games do that, but my point still stands! There are some tracks that come from other games as well, though. For instance, the main overworld theme is Tall Tall Heights from Link's Awakening. Timely. Again. Also, I think the final boss theme may come from Zelda 1, though I'm not fully sure. Though my favorite track probably has to be the remix of The Lost Woods from A Link to the Past. Specifically the combat theme. It's so catchy! And one of the dungeon themes is a remix of The Bolo of Fire from Ocarina of Time. One of my favorite warp songs from that game was remixed as a dungeon theme. That's cool. This game is great. If you're either a Zelda fan, a rhythm game fan, or both, I would completely recommend this game. The art style's great, the gameplay's great, the soundtrack's phenomenal, and overall it is a very fun time. There's even co-op, so that's neat. It's really amazing to see what an indie group was able to do with The Legend of Zelda. The team at Brace Yourself Games really knew what they were doing, and I would love to see what they could do in the future with Zelda if given the chance again. And hey, if one indie studio can work with one of Nintendo's IPs, why can't others? There are surely some really talented people that could do some great things with those IPs if given the chance. Like, how about the creators of Hat in Time, Gears for Breakfast? Looks like a good choice for Mario. Or the creators of Hollow Knight, Team Cherry. From everything I've seen, they would be perfect for Metroid. And hey, I'd be interested in seeing what Toby Fox could do with the Earthbound Mother franchise. Though, of course, those are my thoughts on the matter. Feel free to share your thoughts if you feel like it, and I'll see you guys next time. Speaking of which, when you die in this game, you'll lose all your rupees, keys, and you'll lose all your rupees, keys, and other temporary gear. Though you'll be able to go to a special shop. While I stuck with standard mode for most of while I stuck with standard mode fixed beats being turned While I stuck with standard mode fixed beats being turned off for most of my first two playthroughs, I feel like I'll be playing a bit more with fixed beat mode on, though I'll still play with it off as both ways are fun to play. The overworld generates once when you first start a new file. Even he likes this music. Speaking of which, it's time for the big hitter in question. Speaking of which, now it's time for the big hitter, the music. It's amazing. But the guitar works for every song it's used in. Oh god. I gotta learn to slow down a bit. Where was I? Oh yeah. Side note. On a side note, also, this shopkeeper from Crypt of the Necrodancer, I think they used Also, it's really amazing to